let's talk about a brand new poll that just came out. And I'm going to show you the headline here because I stared at it for a long time trying to make sense of it. I am not sure I'm any closer to making sense of it, but we'll talk about it. Here we go. This is the headline. It's from the Utah-based Deseret News. There we go, Deseret News. And they conducted a poll with a reputable polling agency. And they basically asked a lot of registered voters. They only asked registered voters, do you see the following people, politicians, as people of faith? And you could see from the headline, Republicans see Trump as a person of faith, more so than Mitt Romney, Mike Pence, and others. Like, you've got to be kidding me there. Let me tell you some of the numbers here. Among Republicans, 53% of registered voters who are Republican said Trump was a person of faith. And he's number one on the list for them. Mike Pence, like, who's famously Christian to the point where he's really weird about it and has to go on the Republican debate stage and brag about how he sleeps with his wife, he came in at 52%. Only 52% of registered Republicans think Mike Pence is a person of faith. Like, I don't know anything else about Mike Pence other than he's a person of faith. Who are these people who are like, I don't know? And interestingly enough, what else is on this list? The Republicans also said Ron DeSantis, 47%, Tim Scott, 31%, Nikki Haley, 31%, Vivek Ramaswamy, 30%, Chris Christie, 22%. This is incredible. When it came to Republicans, registered Republican voters, only 23% of them said Joe Biden is a person of faith. And only 12% said Kamala Harris is a person of faith. Like, this is not up for debate. It's definitely not up for debate when it comes to Joe Biden. Joe Biden is Catholic, no questions here, famously. So he attends Mass just about every week. There's been entire news cycles about whether or not bishops should be giving him communion because he supports pro-choice public policy, regardless of what he thinks about abortion in his private life. So if only 23% of Republican voters think Joe Biden is a person of faith, what the hell is going on with 77% of voters? Are they either uninformed about Joe Biden's religion? Do they think Catholicism doesn't count? Or are they just so brainwashed by like Fox News stuff that they're like, Biden is a Democrat. He supports liberal everything. Therefore, he must not be religious or something like that. While we're at it, Kamala Harris is Baptist. Ron DeSantis is Catholic. Vivek Ramaswamy is Hindu. And again, Mike Pence is Mike Pence. But again, going back to Donald Trump here, we can have a discussion about whether or not Donald Trump is religious. And I've heard some people accuse him of being an atheist, and it's like, no, don't put him in my camp. He hasn't put any thought into God. But Donald Trump, just to remind everyone, because you don't remember, he is a thrice married racist who paid hush money to porn stars he was having affairs with when his current wife was pregnant with his fifth child. He is a sexual abuser. He is the guy who said 2 Corinthians. He's the guy who got caught bragging about non-consensually grabbing women, which he could because he said he was a celebrity. He's a guy who lies about everything. He's a guy who says he doesn't need forgiveness. He's a guy who, in 2015, when he was running for president, and reporters said, "Oh, what's your favorite Bible verse?" He basically was like, all of them. I can't name my favorite. That was his response then. And of course, he is the guy who took this picture that I know you all remember right here, standing in front of a church after his team like wiped the streets away of protesters so he could get this photo op in front of a church in Washington, D.C. That's Donald Trump's religion for you. That's the guy who 53% of Republican voters say he's a man of faith. That should disturb everybody. Like, what the hell? Of all the things you could call Donald Trump, and there are so many things you could call Donald Trump, devout is not one of them. There isn't a single white evangelical church in America that would allow someone like Trump to be their pastor if they wanted to be taken seriously. But again, half of these Republican voters, many of whom I assume are conservative Christians, seriously think he's a person of faith. I mean, I know it's not because he does the things you're supposed to do as a Christian. I know it's not because he's put any thought into theology. If he worships anybody, it's himself. Like, I would assume here. So I'm trying to rationalize this now. Why would they say that? The only reason anyone would seriously think Donald Trump is a person of faith is because Trump tells them he's a person of faith and they believe it. Like, they buy the pandering. Or maybe it's because they think installing right wing justices on the Supreme Court for political purposes is the equivalent of accepting the divinity of Christ, which I thought was kind of the prerequisite. But yeah, what do I know? I'm an atheist. Like, if you're a pastor, you should be ashamed of yourself at this point. Pastors, by and large, have done such a horrible job of defining what it means to be a Christian that half of Republican voters think Trump falls under the umbrella. Like, if Trump is in your club, you need to be running for the exits, or at least that's what you would do if you had dignity. Um, it's so disturbing. By the way, I don't want to let Democrats entirely off the hook here. Among Democrats, 14% of Democrats said Donald Trump is a person of faith, which who the hell are those 14% of Democrats? 63% of Democrats said Joe Biden is a person of faith, which again, that's less than 2/3. What the hell, Democrats? How do you not know he's a person of faith? And this is mind-boggling. Let me show you this. This is part of the same survey here. Look at this bottom row. Mitt Romney. And they published this because Mitt Romney is from Utah, the senator from Utah. Only 35% of Republicans said he was a person of faith. I mentioned that earlier. But only 38% of Democrats said Mitt Romney was a person of faith and 42% of independents. Is that because they just don't know Mitt Romney's a Mormon? Or is it because they don't think Mormonism qualifies as a real faith? Or is it because, and this may be the best explanation I can possibly offer, the best case scenario here, most people do not pay any attention to anything involving politics. So when you ask them, oh, what do you think about Mitt Romney when it comes to this thing? They're like, I have no answer. I don't know. I guess not. Like, that just sounds right to them. I assume that's what's going on. Most people are just ignorant. And I don't blame people who are ignorant. They got other things going on in their lives. But still, for the people who know, the people who follow politics, that's just culty answers, just very delusional thinking. Or, I mean, here's the alternative proposal. Maybe they think someone like Donald Trump, whose entire, career has been spewing bullshit, that to them looks exactly like a pastor. How's that for you? Maybe that's the best case scenario. They're like, well, yeah, same dude. He lies. My pastor lies. Same thing. I think the takeaway here is that a whole bunch of Republicans think Trump is a person of faith, which just makes you question what they think faith is. I mean, the fact that he can get away with that Trump can get away with that and let people think he's pious, given everything he's done, it's the stranglehold he has on Republican voters. It's wild, and it's messed up that anyone would think that.